Everyone, I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From 117 with Melissa. What have you been reading? I am reading Maria Bamford's Sure, I'll Join Your Cult, which is great. I like Maria Bamford, but I wouldn't say I'm a fan. So I don't think you need to be a fan. Book about everything, but particularly about her um, OCD and intrusive thoughts and her journey with all of that. Hi, Melissa. How are you? It's good to see you in this setting.
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling me. Thank you
You're
so
welcome. Melissa and I know each other from, social media, but also from Project for Advancing Healthcare Stewardship. Hopefully, I said that right. And Melissa is always such a just like supportive and genuine and enthusiastic participant. I always look forward to seeing you and hearing your thoughts. I just find you to be such a generous person. So I'm happy to see you here.
much. That's so lovely of you to say. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, did you want to say anything or do you just want to launch into it? It's up to you.
Yeah, I guess I can jump right in. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It just, I felt like the timing really worked out in terms of what I ended up writing
Yeah,
about. So without further ado, I'll take it away. This one's called Where I'm From, as all the other ones have been called as well.
this is true.
An 80s baby of sturdy stock, I am from toxic old school Windex. I'm from Lipton's made from powder peach iced tea and Thomas's English muffins with those mysterious little white seeds, Farina. And from the always dirty glass coffee table that, especially after English muffin pizza night, cried out for a spritz or two or three of said original chemical blue glass cleaner. In fact, that smudged and sticky and overused coffee table of ours wore crumbs and spilled milk and even fingerprints, the way a Shabbat dinner table wears a pressed white tablecloth, like a second skin. I'm from a sunny SoCal side yard avocado tree, fruitful and shady, may it rest in peace. Its silhouetted limbs, spooky monster arms against the Venetian blinds. And I'm also from singing Love Shack in the Den and dancing around as honorary B-52s members, as a family, back when we still were one. I'm from great Grandma Rose of blessed memory and from her only son, my beloved Papa Larry. I'm from living to be at least 100, retelling the same stories, repeating the same sayings. Blood is thicker than water. Rome wasn't built in a day. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And from lumpy Passover matzo balls rolled with love. Once we were slaves in Egypt, but now we are free. To craveable Hanukkah latkes fried with Crisco and topped with sour cream. They tried to kill us, but we survived. I am from manna in the desert eating ancient Israelites, who later became Eastern European Ashkenazim, cheese blintzes, noodle kugel, and post pogroms, New Yorkers, Canadians, Angelinos, assimilated. I'm from my 102-year-old World War II fighting grandpa who believed his grandchildren would never know anti Semitism in their lifetime. From I Was Wrong. The proof graffitied everywhere from our storefronts to our synagogues, like numbers tattooed on survivors' arms. I am from Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, the foremothers whose names I chanted proudly more than 26 years ago as a bat mitzvah called to the bima, where I held the Torah close to my heart, where I hold it and all its people still. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was beautiful and emotional. So, what was it like for you writing this poem, Melissa?
I was honestly really grateful for the opportunity to channel so much of what I was feeling into this
Mhm.
because I was feeling super sad and super angry and super unmotivated and hadn't written anything in a long time.
Yeah.
And then I had this looming deadline. And of course, being someone with ADHD, procrastination is one of my middle names, in addition to Rose, after my beloved great grandmother. And so, of course, I hadn't even looked at it, even though you had sent it to me months ago. And I think it would have been a very different poem,
Yeah.
of course, had I written it, when you had originally sent me the assignment. So I was really grateful for my procrastination and for the deadline. It just gave me, because it was an imitation poem and I had to just, plug in and follow the poem as it was, it just, I didn't have to think too hard, and it just kind of, it just materialized. And because you just read another recent piece that came out, that depression and mental health runs in my family, and so it wasn't an extremely happy childhood, and I allude to some of that in this, but I think I may have dwelled more in that space if I had done this earlier, instead of being able to talk about a part of my childhood that has followed me into adulthood, which is my Jewish identity, and how much that shaped me and how much it still means to me. So thank you. It was a really special moment, and I'm just grateful to be able to share it with everybody.
But I think that you speak to, I mean, the truth of the brilliance of this and just writing in general. Obviously, when you pick up your pen or your notebook or whatever, it influences what we write about. And I find the same thing with this poem. If I do it when I'm feeling a certain way, it's going to end up a certain. And so I'm grateful that it came to you. I thought this time seemed very auspicious as well. And so, I mean, auspicious is maybe not the right word, but it felt like, oh, wow, this is a time to talk about where we're from and our heritage and our identity and how that influences who we are today. So it's just, as things were occurring, I thought, oh, this is, I had a feeling you were going to reflect on your Jewish faith and your identity. And
it was just a safe space, and it was the right container.
Right.
And it allowed me to say the things that I was feeling that I don't think I would have been able to get down on paper in the same way. So,
and I think for me, what I love about this prompt and just this whole series is that it hopefully is a safe space and container to talk about things with care and love, and how even the sad things, which I certainly write about plenty in my poem, I still think I am reflecting on myself with care and love in the poem, and that's something that I've come to later in life. Like I didn't have a lot of grace for myself when I was younger, and I think this poem and these conversations has helped me have more of that for myself, and hopefully the people I'm talking to, and just in life in general. We each have a story and things that we carry with us. It
kind of made me feel protective of that child narrator that I was trying to get back into the mindset of, and like you said, treat her with a lot of care, and just kind of as like the precious being that she was and that she remains on the page. So I wanted to be tender towards her.
I just recently posted something in my story talking about that person that we're so hard on, they got us here, we're alive because of them, and it's true.
I love that.
So just be nice to them, they saved your life. It's easy to be critical, I think, of ourselves at a younger age, especially if we were hearing those voices outside of our own brain. And so it's easy to internalize those. And it's like, oh yeah, she got me here. So thank you. And thank you, little Melissa, for getting me here.
Absolutely.
And so the avocado tree is no longer with us.
No, the 1994 Northridge earthquake destroyed our home, and when we rebuilt it, we took the avocado tree out. It actually used to scare my little brother. So the spooky monster arms, that was from him, because it blocked all the light in his room, and it was just kind of dark and ominous. So as much as, and I'm obsessed
Me
with
too.
avocados, so as much as we loved the avocados, the spooky monster arms had to go in the rebuild. So
I'm
yeah,
sorry you lost your home in the earthquake. That was devastating. And I've heard this, what's happening now in downtown being compared to that,
yeah,
that,
it was definitely one of the traumas of my
yeah.
childhood.
Oh,
We all
yeah.
have. So yeah.
I've lived in California most of my life, but did not in 94. So I missed that. And
You
people
lucked
ask
out.
me, yeah, they say like, "Oh, are you scared of earthquakes?" And I'm like, I think the fires get me a lot more than the earthquakes,
Yeah,
like because they tap into that claustrophobic, trapped
for sure.
part of me.
Yeah. Well,
And
we thought earthquakes were fun before that one.
yeah,
Like they were like,
right.
ooh, like a little roller coaster. But then now we've got the post-traumatic
Yeah,
stress. We're just waiting for the next one. So yeah.
I know. And they've been talking about the big one. That is not surprising. That has not made it into any poems I've heard of anyone from California, and I'm surprised because that was definitely something that was discussed a lot in my childhood. The big
Oh
one.
yeah. Yeah. I could just
I
keep
know,
rewriting this poem
right?
over and over again. Yeah, it could go so many different
Yeah.
ways.
And I grew up near the ocean, so it was always like, oh, it's we're gonna fall in. That was the
Oh,
big,
right. Right.
like the big one's gonna come and we're all just gonna fall in the ocean. I don't really
Well,
think
if I
there's
had to
science.
go, I do love the ocean, so that would be a nice place.
Uh,
That might
yeah,
be a nice
so
place to end things.
um I mean, any other thoughts, Melissa, or things you wanted to share or because usually we just talk about the poem and I of course so much of it spoke to me because of the Southern California and even though I'm older than you, the B-52s and the Windex all speaks to me and I guess the whole like thinking of your family when it was whole, I think that
Yeah.
speaks to a lot of us, even if our parents are still married, which mine aren't, and I don't remember them being married. But I even feel like I have different versions of my family. So, did you feel like you were tapping into a specific age or Melissa, or was it kind of just over a span of time?
I felt like she was almost progressing with me throughout the verses.
Yeah, it felt that.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, because it started out in a different place than it ended, right? I mean, it started
Hmm.
out with like kind of like the latchkey kid
Yeah.
vibes. Like there's, chemicals and nobody's watching over. And, the place is a mess because we kids are home alone and making food and then it kind of got into the Jewishness, and
Hmm.
I felt like as each verse continued, I was kind of aging a little bit with the poem because it
Yeah.
ends talking about my bat mitzvah, which is
Mhm.
more mature childhood, I guess you could call it. But
And
I
it
felt like it
is a
started out,
passage, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's meant to be this
right,
like
into
passage into adult.
adulthood.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I did kind of feel like she was growing with me through the verses, and I don't know if I intended that, but that's kind of what happened naturally as I was taking myself through the
Hmm.
prompt. But yeah, I mean, I have such vivid memories of dancing, around in the living room with my family. And there's another poem that I wrote recently that talks about how I just have trouble tapping into those happy childhood moments. They're
Yeah.
just harder for me to
Yep.
grasp. And, I think that's just kind of the way our brains are wired, and particularly my brain.
Hmm.
But I was really grateful for that memory that just because of this poem came up,
Hmm.
and I was happy to be able to write about that moment.
Yeah. And I think those sensory details help to like to remember. For me, it really tapped into nature and how nature felt like a friend when other things weren't coming through.
Oh, I love
That
that.
always was. Like the bay. I grew up on a bay. It wasn't always there.
Yeah,
Um, I also, I mean, I understand the negative bias too. Like we definitely do those things. But I am grateful whenever I remember things. It's like, oh, that was really lovely too. Like those things were happening together,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah. So that was
Hmm.
unexpected, but that memory, popped up when I was taking myself through this, and I was happy to put myself there back in that moment of, the dancing and just poetry in general because it's so sensory.
Hmm.
I tend to be somebody who doesn't naturally go into the sensory, but this forced me to put myself into the
Hmm.
sensory, and of course all writing benefits from that. So,
We all know that intellectually, but I know it's hard. It's definitely changed my writing listening to all of these because I'll be like, okay, come on. There's
yeah,
got to be
yeah, let
some
me
sensory
try that.
details
Yeah,
associated with what's happening here. So,
exactly.
because I enjoy hearing them, like,
Yeah,
so I'm not just learning it because people are telling me it's important. I'm experiencing, like, oh, this is helping me connect to
exactly.
this character.
People can relate,
Yeah.
right? They're like, oh, I remember Love Shack.
I really remember Love Shack. In fact,
Yeah.
Jackie and I were in college when that song was out, and the B-52s came and played at our college. So
Oh my
I
gosh, I
saw
didn't
that
know that
Jackie
you guys
was
went to
here.
college. Yes.
So I just thought I'd give Jackie a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
B-52s, A&O Ball.
We went
Um,
to Antioch together. So we did our graduate program
oh, you did?
together.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's so
Love
funny.
her, love her, love
Yeah.
her.
I love when the connections you don't expect. That is one of the fun things of social media. And
Totally.
there are good. And I wanted to ask one more thing. Were you at the pause forum when we did this poem?
No,
Okay.
I wasn't. And so I'm so grateful that you asked me to participate because I never got to do it in the first place. Not that I would have been able to write this in the 6 minutes that
No,
we would have been allotted the first time.
I know. I
I
wrote
don't get much done
nothing.
in 6 minutes.
And
Yeah,
that was sort
exactly.
of the joke of the thing. Like I was blown away, which I am basically every time by what
Right.
people are able to put together in 6 minutes. But I was like, wow, this is a really beautiful thing to see people who don't consider themselves writers
Right.
writing about themselves in this way. Um and I wasn't even aware of the prompt before that, which is hilarious because now of course I see it everywhere and every school kid and people send me pictures of their kids doing it and
Oh, that's
like yeah,
amazing.
and
Well,
teachers tell me they're doing it and it's really
yeah,
lovely.
I was a school teacher before I
Oh,
was a Pilates teacher, and I use imitation writing with my kids all the time. I'm obsessed with imitation writing. It really makes people feel empowered. And like you
yes.
said, people who don't consider themselves writers, suddenly they want to share their work out loud because it sounds so good, because it already has
Yeah.
all of the kind of tools in place. And I love it as a teaching tool. So yeah, it works great with kids. I love hearing that kids are participating in this too. That's
Oh
great.
yeah. My friend literally sent me a picture. I'm talking at this school today and look at what I saw on the wall. And it's someone's Where I'm From poem. So
Oh, I love
yeah.
that. Oh, maybe my husband will do it with his class.
Yes, you can report back. Um,
Totally.
and well, anything else, Melissa? This has been a pleasure, as I knew it would be. So
This was so wonderful. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you later tonight.
that's right. That's right. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm going to say this here because there's some new people who are Melissa's friends. If you are interested in joining me for a poem, just DM me or email me. Like it's open to everyone. And I want to hear your poems. So please, even if you don't consider yourself a writer, that doesn't matter to me one bit. Everyone has a story. So,
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
yes. Thank you. Bye, Melissa.
Everyone.